It is that thought that visits you in the silent hours of the night. The worry that taps you on the shoulder at the moment of peace. The question that has no answer, the situation that has no clear exit, the wound that reopens just as the scar begins to form. You have tried to ignore it. You have tried to outrun it, burying it under layers of noise and distraction. But like a faithful shadow, it remains. This is the problem that won't let you go. And in its relentless persistence, you have come to see it as an enemy. A curse. A sign that the heavens have turned away from you. But what if it is the opposite? What if the thing that chases you is not a punishment, but the very rope that prevents you from falling into the abyss of heedlessness? Because here is a truth that few dare to speak: you would not have felt the weight of this burden if you were dead. An empty heart does not ache. A sealed soul feels no friction. The very fact that you are struggling, that you are fighting with this ghost in your room, is proof that you are alive. It is proof that a light still flickers within you, struggling against the winds of this world. Your problem is not your enemy. It is your caller. In the stillness of the night, when you are alone with your thoughts, that persistent problem does not drag you into the dirt. It drives you to your knees. It is the pressure that forges the diamond. It is the silence of the night that awaits the whisper of the dawn. Because when the world offers no solution, when the doors of human help are bolted shut, that is when the heart knows where to turn. It is that sacred moment of desperation where your broken whisper becomes louder than the armies of the world. Do not pray for the removal of the thorn. Pray for the strength to carry it, so that its sharpness may keep you awake. So that its sting may guide you home. The problem that won't let you go is, perhaps, the very love that never let you go in the first place. The first keynote, the uninvited guest, asks us to fundamentally reshape our relationship with our deepest struggles. When a problem refuses to leave your side, when it greets you in the morning and tucks you in at night, your instinct is to treat it as an invader. You wage war against it, expending your emotional and spiritual energy trying to evict it from your life. You bargain with it, you scream at it, you try to reason with it, and yet it remains stubbornly seated at your table. This relentless resistance is the source of your exhaustion. You are tired not because the problem is heavy, but because you have been fighting an uninvited guest as if it were a mortal enemy, when in truth, it has been sent as a necessary companion for your journey. Consider the nature of a guest who arrives without warning. You did not send for them, you did not prepare for them, and their presence disrupts the comfort of your routine. But in many traditions, the arrival of an uninvited guest is considered a blessing in disguise, a test of your character and a means of cultivating virtues you never knew you possessed. Your problem is precisely that kind of guest. It has arrived not to destroy your home, but to reveal its foundations. It exposes the cracks in your patience, the limits of your trust, and the shallowness of your gratitude. And in doing so, it forces you to rebuild, to reinforce, and to elevate. The problem that won't let you go is not a sign that you have been abandoned, it is a sign that you have been chosen for a unique form of refinement. Gold does not resent the fire, nor does the diamond complain about the pressure. They understand that their value is inseparable from the intensity of the process. Your problem is the fire that separates the dross from the pure ore of your soul. It is the pressure that compresses ordinary carbon into extraordinary brilliance. When you stop seeing your struggle as an unfortunate accident and start seeing it as a deliberate, divinely sent invitation, your entire perspective shifts. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You stop fighting the guest and start listening to what they have come to say. Perhaps this persistent problem is here to teach you humility, to remind you that you are not self-sufficient. Perhaps it is here to tear down your pride, the very pride that has been separating you from your Creator and from your own true self. Perhaps it is here to silence the noise of your ego so that you can finally hear the whispers of guidance that have been drowned out by your own ambitions. Your problem is not a mistake in the divine plan, it is an integral part of it. It is the teacher who does not accept excuses, the trainer who pushes you beyond your perceived limits. It won't let you go because it sees potential in you that you refuse to see in yourself. It clings to you because it knows that without its persistent pressure, you would settle for a mediocre life, a shallow faith, and a sleepwalking existence. Embrace the uninvited guest, not with resignation, but with hospitality. Offer them a seat at your table, and ask them what they have come to share with you. The second keynote, the divine tether, invites you to see your persistent problem not as a chain that binds you to the earth, but as a rope that pulls you back from the edge of the abyss. When you are lost in the distractions of daily life, when your heart grows hard and your gaze turns away from what truly matters, the world around you offers no resistance. It lets you drift. It lets you wander. It lets you sink slowly into the comforts of illusion until you forget that you were ever meant to soar. But your problem, that unrelenting weight that follows you from morning to night, refuses to let you drift. It pulls at you with a sharp, insistent tug, reminding you that you are not home yet, that this world is not your final destination, and that your soul is aching for something far greater than what your hands can grasp. This is the divine tether, and it is a mercy in disguise. Think of a child who wanders too close to a dangerous edge. A loving parent does not cheer them on from a distance, they reach out and grab them firmly by the collar, pulling them back to safety. That pull may be uncomfortable. It may even startle the child. But it is born of love, not of cruelty. Your problem is that same loving hand, pulling you back from the edge of spiritual ruin. It is the pain that wakes you from the sleep of heedlessness. It is the worry that breaks through the noise of your busy life and forces you to pause, to reflect, and to remember. Without it, you would continue on your path of distraction, accumulating the possessions and achievements of this world while your soul grew thinner and thinner. The problem that won't let you go is the anchor that keeps you from being swept away by the tides of your own desires. It is the rope that ties you to the mast when the storms of life rage around you, preventing you from being thrown overboard into the dark waters of despair. Every time that problem surfaces in your mind, it carries with it an invitation to turn your gaze upward. It is a call to prayer, a reminder of your weakness, and a prompt to seek strength from a source that never fails. The very frustration you feel is a gift, because frustration is the precursor to surrender, and surrender is the beginning of true peace. When you have exhausted all your own solutions, when you have tried everything within your power and still the problem remains, you are left with no choice but to raise your hands. That is the moment the tether does its sacred work. It has pulled you, against your will, into the presence of the one who holds all solutions. You arrived complaining, perhaps even angry, but you arrived nonetheless. And that arrival is everything. Your problem does not let you go because your soul knows something your mind refuses to accept, that you cannot navigate this path alone. The tether is a mercy for those who would otherwise wander too far. It is a constant, gentle, and sometimes sharp reminder that you belong to a higher purpose. So the next time your problem wraps itself around your thoughts, do not fight against it. Recognize it for what it truly is. It is not a punishment. It is not a curse. It is the loving hand of your Creator, refusing to let you go, refusing to let you settle, refusing to let you forget that you were made for something infinite. And that infinite something is closer to you than your own jugular vein, waiting for you to simply turn and see. The third keynote, the illusion of ease, challenges the very foundation of how you have been taught to live. You have been sold a story, a seductive narrative that whispers to you day and night that life should be smooth, that obstacles are anomalies, and that comfort is your birthright. Every advertisement, every social media feed, every casual conversation with friends seems to reinforce this idea that friction is the enemy and that the ultimate success is a life free from struggle. You have internalized this so deeply that when a problem arrives and refuses to leave, you feel personally betrayed. You ask, "Why me?" as if you have been singled out for a punishment that everyone else has escaped. But this is the great illusion. The world you inhabit is not designed for perpetual ease. The very soil beneath your feet yields its fruit only after being broken open. The seed must crack and die to itself before it can rise toward the sun. The night must fall before the dawn can break. The stillness of winter is the necessary prelude to the explosion of spring. Your problem, that persistent weight that refuses to lift, is not a sign that you have been excluded from some universal promise of comfort. It is a sign that you are participating in the very rhythm of existence. The problem that won't let you go is your companion through the necessary darkness. It is the friction that shapes you, the resistance that builds your strength, and the discomfort that keeps you growing. If you examine the lives of those you admire, those who have depth, wisdom, and true character, you will find that none of them arrived at that place through a path of uninterrupted ease. They were shaped by their struggles, refined by their trials, and defined by the problems that refused to abandon them. The problem is not the exception, it is the rule. And the moment you stop treating it as an unwelcome intruder and start accepting it as an essential part of the human journey, you free yourself from the exhausting chase for an unattainable ideal. Consider the alternative for a moment. Imagine if your problem simply vanished today. Imagine if every difficulty melted away and you were left with a life of pure, unbroken comfort. What would happen to you? Without the pressure of the problem, your spiritual muscles would atrophy. Without the constant reminder of your limitations, your ego would inflate to dangerous proportions. Without the nightly call to prayer that arises from your worry, your connection to what is sacred would grow weak and distant. The removal of your problem would not be a blessing, it would be a silent catastrophe. You were not created to float effortlessly through life like a leaf on a calm pond. You were created to swim against the current, to climb the mountain, to endure the desert heat. Your problem is the current, the mountain, and the heat. It is the very thing that makes your journey meaningful. The ease you crave is not the ease of a frictionless life, it is the ease that comes from knowing that you have faced your trial and emerged refined. It is the ease of a heart that has been broken open and made capable of receiving greater light. So stop measuring your worth by the absence of struggle. Stop believing that the problem is a mistake that needs to be corrected. It is not. It is your companion, your teacher, and your path. Embrace the friction, for it is the fire that tempers your soul and prepares you for a peace far deeper than anything the world can offer. The fourth keynote, the signal of life, asks you to reconsider the very nature of your pain and to recognize it as evidence of your vitality. When a problem clings to you, refusing to release its grip, you interpret its presence as a sign of weakness, failure, or even divine displeasure. You wish for it to disappear, to leave you in peace, to grant you the silence that you believe will bring you happiness. But pause for a moment and ask yourself a profound question: who feels pain? A stone does not ache. A corpse does not weep. The ocean does not tremble with anxiety. Only the living feel the sharp sting of worry, the dull throb of grief, and the persistent pulse of unanswered questions. Your problem is not proof that you are broken, it is proof that you are breathing. It is proof that your heart is still beating, that your soul is still sensitive, and that you have not been rendered numb by the callousness of this world. The problem that won't let you go is the signal of life itself, a beacon that announces your presence in this realm of tests and trials. Consider the alternative. Consider what it would mean to have no problems at all, to float through your days untouched by concern, to wake each morning without a single weight pressing upon your chest. You might imagine that this would be paradise, but in truth, it would be a form of death. The absence of struggle is the absence of growth. The absence of friction is the absence of fire. And the absence of pain is often the absence of love, for love and pain are twin threads woven into the same fabric of existence. When you love deeply, you open yourself to the possibility of profound loss. When you care intensely, you expose yourself to the sting of disappointment. The problem that stays with you, that refuses to loosen its hold, is a sign that you are still capable of caring, still connected to the world, still invested in the outcomes of your life and the lives of those around you. It is a sign that you have not retreated into the cold fortress of indifference, that your heart has not hardened into stone. And that, in itself, is a blessing beyond measure. The soul that feels no pain is a soul that has gone to sleep. The heart that no longer trembles is a heart that has been sealed. Your persistent problem is the alarm clock that keeps waking you up, refusing to let you drift into the slumber of heedlessness. It is the sharp pinch that reminds you that you are alive, that you are accountable, and that your story is still being written. Every ache you carry is a page in that story, a chapter that reveals your humanity and your connection to the divine. Even the prophets, the most beloved of creation, were not spared from persistent trials. Their problems did not abandon them. They faced grief, betrayal, hunger, and isolation. Their struggles were not punishments, they were signals of their elevated station, markers of their profound connection to the truth. Your problem places you in their company. It lifts you from the masses who sleepwalk through life and elevates you to the ranks of those who feel deeply, who wrestle with meaning, and who never cease their search for the light. So when your problem visits you again today, do not curse it. Do not beg it to leave as you would an unwelcome disease. Thank it. Thank it for reminding you that you are still capable of feeling, still connected to the pulse of existence, and still on the path toward something greater. Your tears are not a weakness, they are the water that nourishes the garden of your soul. Your worry is not a failure, it is the compass that points you toward your purpose. The problem that won't let you go is the very heartbeat of your journey, and as long as it beats, you are alive, you are awake, and you are still moving forward. The fifth keynote, the premise of power, invites you to a revolutionary shift in your understanding of what it means to overcome. You have been conditioned to believe that the only victory over a problem is its complete and total removal. You measure your success by the absence of struggle, and you measure your failure by its persistence. This binary thinking has left you exhausted and defeated, because you have placed your power in the hands of circumstances that are beyond your control. You cannot force the problem to leave. You cannot bargain with it, outsmart it, or wish it away. But you can do something far more profound. You can change the container that holds it. The premise of power is this: the solution is not in the removal of the problem, but in the elevation of the self that carries it. The problem does not have to disappear for you to be free. In fact, the problem may remain with you until your very last breath, and yet you can still achieve a peace that surpasses all understanding. How is this possible? Because your true power lies not in your ability to change your external circumstances, but in your ability to change your internal response to them. You cannot control the waves of the ocean, but you can learn to sail. You cannot stop the rain from falling, but you can build a shelter. You cannot silence the voices of your critics, but you can fortify the walls of your own self-worth. The problem that won't let you go is not the measure of your strength, your response to it is. Imagine two people carrying the same heavy burden. One of them walks with a stooped back, dragging their feet, complaining with every step, their spirit crushed by the weight. The other walks upright, their gaze fixed on the horizon, their steps measured and steady, their heart light despite the load. The burden is identical, but the experience is entirely different. What has changed? Not the problem. The person. The first has placed their power in the hope that the burden will be removed. The second has placed their power in their own capacity to carry it with dignity. The first is a victim of circumstance. The second is a master of their own soul. This is the essence of the premise of power. Your problem is not a sentence, it is an assignment. It has been given to you not to break you, but to reveal the strength that you did not know you possessed. Every day that you face it with patience, every night that you turn to your Creator with your worry, every moment that you choose hope over despair, you are exercising a power that the problem itself cannot touch. The problem exists in the realm of events, your power exists in the realm of the soul. And the soul, when elevated, can contain mountains without being crushed. The prophets and the righteous were not free from their trials. They did not wait for their problems to vanish before they found peace. They found their peace in the midst of the storm, because they understood that their worth was not tied to their circumstances. They understood that the problem was the stage, but their response was the performance. They understood that true victory is not the absence of the enemy, but the presence of unwavering trust. So release your grip on the fantasy of a problem-free life. Stop exhausting yourself by trying to force the door open. Instead, strengthen yourself. Build your patience. Deepen your trust. Expand your gratitude. When the problem remains, as it often will, you will remain too. But you will remain taller, stronger, and more radiant than before. That is the premise of power. That is the victory that no circumstance can steal. And that is the freedom that awaits you when you stop fighting the problem and start rising above it.